Manchester United started this season by getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Grimsby Town. Liverpool are giving us the worst title defense we have seen in the Premier League in over 10 years. Aston Villa have won just 5 league games in 2026, and yet all of them are above Chelsea in the table. Chelsea have problems all over the pitch. Their defense has not been reliable, their pressing has been leaky, they are so easy to play through on the ball, they are too predictable, they are too reliant on attacking through the wings, which is a problem because let's be honest, their wingers are simply not that good. But that is not where the problems stop. Chelsea's problems go way further than just having Brighton's former number 3 in goal, Chosen and Badiashile in defense, Gittins and Garnacho on the wings, and Delap up front. The problems go much deeper. Football clubs are often criticized for having no long-term plan, no long-term project, no long-term strategy. But what is even worse than having no long-term plan is pretending you have a long-term plan when you clearly don't have a long-term plan. And that is exactly what has been happening at Chelsea. Ever since the change of ownership in 2022, Chelsea have been pretty clear about what they want to be. They want to run the club like a sustainable business. They want a young core that can grow together for years. In theory, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Buy younger players, tie them down to long contracts, develop them inside one structure, and over time, you create a squad that grows together and competes at the top for years. That is the theory. The problem is that Chelsea have spent the last 4 years behaving like a club trying to execute 4 different strategies at the same time. At times, they recruit like a club trying to win immediately. At times, they recruit like a club trying to hoard future assets and make profit later. At times, they recruit for the manager. And at times, they recruit like the manager barely matters at all. Signings like Enzo for over 100 million, Caicedo for over 115 million, or Fofana for around 70 million would make perfect sense for a team that wants to compete right now. They were expensive, highly rated young players. You are not buying them to flip them later for profit. You are buying them because you believe they can become the spine of a young and competitive team. But while Chelsea did build a young team around them, it was not a competitive team because the vast majority of signings Chelsea have made were not proven elite players ready to raise the level immediately. They were young, inexperienced, unproven bets. The logic was simple. Buy them early, develop them, increase their market values. But there are 2 massive problems with that. Firstly, Chelsea are not Brighton. Chelsea are one of the biggest clubs in England. Their fan base is used to winning. They want to challenge for the Premier League title. They want to compete in the Champions League. Secondly, even if Chelsea want to act like Brighton, they are not doing a very good job at acting like Brighton. They are not just buying raw young players without any future plan for them, they are also massively overpaying for them. They paid over 60 million for Mudryk, over 50 million for Pedro Neto, 50 million for Janie Gittins, 40 million for Garnacho. The list goes on and on and on. In 2024, they spent over 140 million on Dewsbury Hall, Jorgensen, Kellyman, Penders, Anselmino, Amugu, Renato Vega, Caleb Wiley, and Mark Guiu combined. They literally spent 19 million on Omari Kellyman from Aston Villa, who had played only 35 minutes in the Premier League. Those players have made 119 appearances for the club combined. 3 of them are already gone. Only Vega has generated profit. Their short-term impact had been basically non-existent, and is very likely that most of them won't bring any significant long-term impact to the club either. That is not squad building. That is accumulation. None of those signings were proven players who could walk into the team and immediately raise the level. They were all gambles. And yes, some gambles do pay off. Cole Palmer is the obvious example. Cucurella, Joao Pedro, and Estevao are turning out to be very good signings as well. But the problem with a gamble is that it is a gamble. And most gambles do not work out. What makes it even worse is the environment these players are entering. Some are thrown into the starting lineup before they are ready. Some sit on the bench because they are not good enough to start, even for this Chelsea side. Some are sent out on loan, then another loan, then another loan, until nobody even knows what their pathway is supposed to be anymore. So even if the player has talent, he is not in the ideal conditions to develop, and the worst part is that this model is not even sustainable financially. Last season, they posted a loss of £262 million, the biggest loss in English football history, and that was despite the prize money from the Club World Cup. The season before that, they only recorded a profit because they sold the women's team to their sister company. And while this season it may not look quite as catastrophic because they generated over 300 million in sales and had income from the Champions League football, next season it might look even worse. PSG, who knocked them out of the Champions League, have also invested huge money into a young squad, but the difference is that many of their young players were already proven at a very high level and capable of deciding the biggest matches immediately. Chelsea have spent even more money on players who are not only less proven, but in many cases were never worth those prices in the first place. That combination kills them. Overpriced, underdeveloped, and surrounded by instability. And the fans can see it. Fans can tolerate a rebuild if they believe in it. They can tolerate young players if they can see the vision. They can even tolerate 1 or 2 bad seasons if the team looks like it is moving towards something real. But what they cannot tolerate is being lied to. They cannot tolerate watching hundreds of millions get spent on players who barely play. They cannot tolerate seeing the team get weaker while being told the future is bright. They cannot tolerate being asked for patience when the club itself keeps acting impatient whenever things get uncomfortable. They cannot tolerate seeing someone destroying their club from inside out. Under Abramovich, Chelsea had great seasons, but they also had not so good seasons. But after every disappointing season, there was a hope, a sense of restart. Bring a new manager, buy new players, and challenge for the title the next season. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it failed. But at the start of each season, there was always a hope that the biggest trophies were not out of their reach. But now, it seems like the success is getting further and further away from Chelsea's hands.